Imagine stepping into your backyard where every forgotten branch holds a secret. An archway that blooms with roses, a pergola glowing with lanterns, a spiral tower of vines, even a fountain where water trickles over twigs into stone. Today at Archon Aesthetic Studio, we're diving into over 25 rustic upcycle ideas that turn dry branches into fairy garden creations you'll wish you tried sooner. Use the timestamps to jump to what inspires you most, and if a spark of curiosity strikes, drop it in the comments. Welcome to Archon Aesthetic Studio, a place where simple materials and imagination come together to create beauty for your garden. If you're new here, we share ideas that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, always with a touch of rustic magic. Remember, you'll find timestamps in this video so you can skip to the parts you need most. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I'd love to know. One, fairy archway of painted branches with climbing roses. Imagine walking into a garden where time slows down, and every step feels like a passage into wonder. At the heart of this path stands an archway, crafted not from stone or steel, but from branches once forgotten on the ground. Painted in soft shades of sky blue, mint green, and pale pink, the wood carries the language of playfulness, like brushstrokes across a fairytale canvas. Climbing roses entwine themselves lovingly along the frame, spilling blooms in hues of red and blush. Their petals fall like confetti on the mossy pathway, reminding you that beauty does not need perfection, only the courage to bloom where it is placed. Sunlight filters through the branches, dappling the ground with patterns that shift gently in the breeze. There is a tenderness here. The arch does more than frame a path, it frames a moment. A moment to pause, to breathe, to imagine. Each season it changes, roses weaving tighter, colors deepening, fragrance lingering. It is not just decoration. It is memory made visible, a threshold into peace. As you walk beneath, you feel welcomed into a world where ordinary branches become extraordinary wonders, leading seamlessly into the next garden story. Two, rustic twig pergola draped with lanterns and vines. Imagine stepping into a shaded corner of the garden where the air feels cooler, softer, and touched by magic. Above you rises a pergola, not built from polished lumber, but from the honest texture of dry branches, bound together with rope as if nature herself tied the knots. The beams stretch upward, their irregular lines forming a canopy that filters sunlight into shifting mosaics of shadow and glow. Dangling from its frame are lanterns made of painted jars and recycled tins, their colors catching the light in playful fragments: blue, amber, pink, green. By day they shine gently, like ornaments in a secret woodland retreat. By night, they awaken, glowing softly as fairy lights flicker inside, turning the pergola into a luminous haven. Around the posts, vines climb eagerly, weaving themselves across the branches as if eager to be part of the story. Grapes, morning glories, roses. Each season drapes its own fabric of growth, adding layers of life. Beneath this living roof, a bench invites pause, a table welcomes company, and every conversation feels timeless. The pergola is more than structure. It is sanctuary, a reminder that beauty can be humble, handmade, and still magnificent. And from here, the garden's wonder continues to unfold. Three, spiral twig obelisk supporting cucumbers and flowers. Imagine a tower in the garden, not of stone or marble, but of branches bent into a graceful spiral. Rising gently from the earth, it curves toward the sky like a dance frozen in mid-motion. At its base, tender vines stretch upward, eager to follow the winding path offered to them. Cucumbers, beans, or blossoms find their place here, wrapping themselves into a living sculpture of green. Each twig is chosen for its bend, its patience, its willingness to hold shape. Painted softly in mint, lavender, and coral, they shimmer under sunlight, giving the spiral a touch of whimsy. From afar it looks like art. Up close, it is life, roots drinking from soil, leaves turning toward light, fruit forming quietly in the spaces between. There's something eternal about watching a plant climb. It's a story of trust, nature trusting the hands that gave it a frame, and we trusting the earth to reward our care. The spiral obelisk becomes both function and poetry, a structure that feeds the body and nourishes the spirit. In the garden, it stands not just as a trellis, but as a symbol that even what bends can still rise, and even the simplest materials can touch the sky. Four, dry branch pond frame with cascading waterfall. Imagine the sound of water weaving its own song through the garden. Soft, steady, eternal. At one corner, branches laid by hand become the frame of a small pond, their textures blending with stone and moss. From the edge, a waterfall trickles down, guided by twigs arranged like the ribs of an ancient harp. Each drop becomes music, each ripple a verse written on the surface of stillness. The branches, once dry and forgotten, now cradle water as if protecting a secret. Painted in delicate hues or left bare to weather, they stand against the flow, softening the line between crafted and natural. Around the edges, ferns bow low, flowers lean close, and dragonflies hover as if they too are enchanted by the rhythm. A pond does more than decorate. It invites life, birds pausing to drink, butterflies drawn to the shimmer, children leaning close to watch their reflection dance. In its simplicity lies wonder, a cycle of water, wood, and time woven into harmony. This small frame of branches becomes a sanctuary, a mirror of the sky, a story told in ripples. And as you move on, its song follows, gentle, grounding, unforgettable. Five, twig mushroom sculptures painted in vibrant colors. Imagine wandering through a garden corner that feels as though it belongs in a storybook. Scattered across mossy ground, clusters of mushrooms rise, not born of soil, but crafted from twigs shaped into stems and caps. Painted in bright reds, cobalt blues, and sunshine yellows, Each cap is dotted with whimsical white spots, glowing like lanterns under the morning sun. They stand as guardians of imagination, playful and surreal, transforming ordinary space into a miniature woodland of wonder. Children pause to marvel. Adults smile at their innocence. The twigs, once brittle and forgotten, now carry new life, embodying the joy of creation. Around their bases, ferns unfurl and moss creeps softly, completing the illusion of a fairy forest. When twilight comes, the colors deepen and shadows stretch long, turning these sculptures into silhouettes that spark stories untold. They remind us that beauty does not always come from nature alone, but from the hands that dare to reimagine it. Each mushroom is more than decor. It is a spark of whimsy planted in the soil of reality. And as you pass by, you feel the garden whisper. Even small creations can make the world feel enchanted. Six, woven branch fence with wildflowers and vines. Imagine a garden where even the fences breathe. Along the edges of a pathway, branches once scattered on the ground now stand upright, woven together into a rustic lattice. Their lines are imperfect, each bend and knot carrying the memory of the tree they once belonged to. And yet, in this irregular rhythm lies beauty, a fence that feels alive. From its base, wildflowers and climbing vines find a partner, weaving themselves through every gap. Morning glories climb in spirals, daisies lean against the wood, sweet peas curl and bloom as if whispering secrets to the branches. The fence becomes more than a border. It is a stage where plants perform their seasonal ballet. As the days pass, colors shift. Spring brings soft pastels. Summer bursts with vibrant hues. Autumn leaves add gold and rust. The wooden frame does not resist. It embraces every transformation, turning into a living wall that changes with time. It protects, it defines, but most of all, it inspires. A reminder that structure can also be soft, and boundaries can still invite wonder. Walking past it, you feel the garden extend beyond its edge, blurring the line between what is built and what simply grows. Seven, twig pergola tunnel walkway wrapped in ivy. Imagine a pathway that feels less like a walk and more like an entrance into a story. Overhead, branches bend and curve, tied together to form a rustic pergola. With time, ivy has claimed it, weaving itself into every gap, until the frame disappears beneath a living cloak of green. Sunlight filters softly through the leaves, scattering golden patterns onto the stones below. Each step beneath this tunnel feels like stepping deeper into wonder. The scent of blossoms drifts from nearby beds, the air cool and hushed, as if the world outside has paused. The arch is not perfect, nor is it meant to be. Its irregular lines carry the honesty of nature, the hand of the gardener, and the will of the vine. At its entrance, flowers bloom like a welcome. At its end, the promise of a bench or open space invites rest. It is both passage and destination, both shelter and threshold. For children, it becomes a secret tunnel. For dreamers, a cathedral of leaves. This pergola tunnel is more than structure. It is an embrace, an invitation to linger, and a reminder that sometimes the most magical places are simply made of branches and patience. 8. Whimsical twig chandelier with mason jar fairy lights. Imagine the evening settling gently over the garden. The air cools, the sky blushes with twilight, and above a rustic nook hangs a chandelier not made of crystal, but of twigs gathered from the earth. Bound together in a circle, their uneven lines tell the story of branches once lost, now reborn into art. From each twig hangs a mason jar, glowing softly with fairy lights, tiny stars captured in glass. The light spills downward in warm pools, brushing the bench below, dancing across the flowers, and turning the garden into a place of quiet magic. By day, the chandelier is playful, jars catching the sun like jewels. By night, it transforms into a beacon of intimacy, its glow inviting whispers, laughter, or silence shared. There is a tenderness in this creation, simple materials brought together to shape an atmosphere. It is less about grandeur and more about belonging. A reminder that beauty often comes when we gather what we have, bind it with care, and let light do the rest. In the garden's rhythm, the twig chandelier becomes a memory waiting to happen. An evening meal, a story told, a moment cherished, before the path leads to the next wonder. Nine. Rustic branch bench with curved backrest. Imagine discovering a bench tucked away in the garden, a place where the world seems to pause. Its seat is steady, built from sturdy branches, but it is the backrest that steals your breath. Twigs, curved by nature and tied together with care, rise like an arching wave, their irregular lines forming a silhouette as graceful as a sculpture. Painted in soft pastels, mint, pale pink, lavender, the branches glow gently against the surrounding greenery. They curve and intertwine, echoing the shapes of vines and leaves, as though the garden itself leaned in to design this resting place. Here, sitting is no longer just about rest. It is about listening to the whisper of leaves above, to the bees dancing in blossoms nearby, to your own thoughts finally unburdened. The bench invites stillness but also presence. It becomes a frame where you are part of the garden's story. It is both practical and poetic, a chair and a canvas, a structure and a dream. And as the day fades into evening, its arcs catch the last light of the sun, reminding you that even the simplest branches, when brought together, can cradle both body and spirit. (10) Rustic dry branch gazebo with seasonal flowers. Imagine stepping into a garden and finding a gazebo that feels like it was dreamed into being. Its pillars are not polished wood, but dry branches tied and woven, their forms irregular yet strong. Above, the roof opens like a lattice of twigs, filtering sunlight into shifting mosaics on the ground below. Around it, garlands of flowers sway gently, roses in full bloom, daisies leaning with grace, marigolds bright as suns. Some blossoms are fresh from the season, others are guided by vines that climb and weave themselves into the frame. Together, they turn this rustic shelter into a living crown of color. Inside, a wooden bench waits. Here conversations linger longer, tea tastes sweeter, silence feels profound. Every detail of this gazebo whispers of patience and imagination, branches that once lay forgotten, now reborn as a gathering place, a retreat, a poem in wood and petals. It is not grand, but it is enchanting. Not perfect, but profoundly alive. Standing within it, you feel held by the garden itself, embraced by both nature and craft. And as you step away, the memory remains, that even the simplest materials, when guided by love, can build a sanctuary. (11) Fairy swing made from branches and colorful ropes. Imagine walking through a garden and finding a swing waiting for you, not ordinary, but whimsical, as if placed there by fairies. Its seat is built from sturdy branches, smoothed and bound together, painted softly in mint and sky blue. From above, colorful ropes descend, wrapped with flowers and ribbons, swaying gently in the summer air. It invites both play and reflection. For a child, it becomes a flying carpet, lifting dreams higher with every push. For an adult, it is a chair suspended between earth and sky, a reminder of youth and the simple joy of motion. The ropes creak softly, the flowers dance, and the air feels lighter here, as though time itself pauses to watch. This swing does not demand attention. It earns it, quietly transforming a corner of the garden into a place of laughter and memory. The branches once fallen, the ropes once plain, now combine into an emblem of joy. As you sit and sway, the world blurs. The garden becomes a storybook, the breeze a gentle song. And when you step away, the swing remains, waiting for the next dreamer to take hold of its ropes and fly. (12) Twig gate topper wreath with seasonal accents. Imagine approaching a garden where the welcome begins not with words, but with a crown of twigs. Resting above the gate, a wreath woven from branches forms a circle, a timeless shape of return and renewal. Its texture is rough, its lines imperfect, but its presence sings of care. Woven into its frame are accents of the season, roses in the height of summer, lavender sprigs carrying their fragrance, or autumn leaves glowing like embers. At times, ribbons are tied across it, catching the breeze, making the wreath dance with every breath of wind. Painted twigs in soft pastel shades peek through the design, adding a touch of whimsy that turns simple wood into enchantment. Passing beneath, you feel the garden acknowledge you, as if saying, "Here you belong." It is not merely an ornament, it is a sign of welcome, a bridge between outside and inside, a symbol that this space holds intention and heart. Every glance at the wreath reminds you that entrances matter. They set the tone for what lies ahead, offering beauty before a single step is taken. And as you cross the gate, the circle above lingers in your mind, a quiet promise of wonder waiting beyond. (13) Pastel branch garden edging. Imagine walking along a garden path where even the borders bloom with personality. Instead of stone or wire, the edges are marked by branches, cut evenly, pressed into the soil, standing side by side like sentinels of color. Their tops are painted in pastels: mint green, lavender, blush pink, sunshine yellow. Together, they form a playful rhythm, guiding the eye as flowers spill gently over. There is a childlike joy in these lines, as if the garden itself decided to decorate, dipping its fingers into a box of colors and sketching along its edges. The irregular texture of bark meets the smooth brightness of paint, a marriage of rustic and whimsical. Beyond beauty, there is meaning. The branches are reminders of resourcefulness, of creating charm from what was once discarded. Each painted top feels like a note in a melody, separate but harmonious when viewed as a whole. As sunlight touches the border, colors glow softly, and petals scatter across them like confetti. This edging does more than hold soil, it frames life. It transforms a simple flower bed into a work of art, a canvas where nature and imagination paint together. (14) Dry branch pond frame with cascading mini waterfall. Imagine the heart of a garden marked not by stone or sculpture, but by water in motion. A pond rests quietly, its edges framed with branches laid side by side, their weathered lines softened by moss and paint in pastel hues. From one corner, a cascade begins, water slipping down twigs and stones in silver ribbons, spilling into the pool below with a sound both gentle and eternal. Around it, flowers lean in, their reflections trembling on the surface. Lilies float across the pond like drifting thoughts, while ferns guard the edges with quiet grace. The air cools near the water, carrying with it a sense of renewal, as if every drop carries away the weight of yesterday. This feature is more than decoration, it is rhythm. It teaches patience, inviting you to pause, to listen, to feel the pull of time slowed by the steady fall of water. Birds arrive, butterflies linger, and dragonflies shimmer above the surface, drawn to its living pulse. The branches, once fallen, now guide water instead of leaves, turning into a vessel of beauty. And as the sun sets, the cascade catches light like liquid fire, a reminder that even the simplest elements can create wonder. (15) Twig mushroom sculptures painted in vibrant colors. Imagine wandering into a shaded corner of the garden and finding a forest that feels touched by magic. Rising from the moss are mushrooms, yet not of flesh and spore, but of twigs shaped by hand and painted in colors bold as dreams. Their caps glow in red, blue, and yellow, dotted with whimsical white speckles, as if borrowed from the pages of a fairy tale. The stems, rough with bark, stand in contrast to the smooth, playful crowns. Together, they look alive, though born not from soil, but from imagination. Sunlight dances across their painted tops, sending sparks of color across the greenery. Around them, ferns bend low, moss spreads like a soft carpet, and wildflowers lean close, as though to listen. For children, they become invitations to stories, tiny fairy villages waiting to be discovered. For adults, they are reminders of wonder itself, that joy can be sculpted from branches left behind. These mushrooms do not merely decorate, they transform. They take an ordinary garden and give it the feel of an enchanted woodland. Here, nature and art play hand in hand, proving that even twigs can grow into symbols of delight when painted with imagination. 16. Whimsical dry branch fairy house planter with moss roof. Imagine stumbling upon a tiny home hidden among the flowers, as if left behind by unseen hands. Its walls are built from twigs, tied and balanced with rustic charm, while its roof is soft with living moss, shimmering green under the sun. Inside, succulents nestle quietly, their leaves like jewels, spilling from doorways and windows as if the house itself were alive. This fairy house planter carries both whimsy and depth. It feels like a secret, a place where imagination finds shelter. Children see it as the dwelling of forest folk, while adults feel the pull of nostalgia, remembering the worlds once built in play and wonder. The contrast of rough twigs and lush moss speaks of harmony. Nature's discarded pieces becoming art, a home not for people, but for plants. Each pastel-painted twig along its edges adds a stroke of magic, turning wood into a storybook frame. Placed in a flower bed or at the edge of a pathway, it becomes more than decor. It becomes a landmark of imagination. Every glance toward it whispers that gardens are not only for growing food or flowers, but also for nurturing dreams. "17. Twig pergola tunnel walkway wrapped in ivy." Imagine a pathway that does more than guide your steps. It carries you into a story. Overhead, branches bend to form arches, their frames laced with ivy and roses that twist together in a living embrace. Sunlight seeps through the canopy in shifting patterns, painting the stone walkway below with moving light and shadow. Each step feels like entering a secret world, where time is slower and the air carries the fragrance of climbing blooms. The tunnel hums with life, bees slip between blossoms, vines stretch higher each day, and the wood beneath still holds the memory of wind and forest. Painted twigs add gentle flashes of pastel, hints of whimsy against the deep greens. Walking here is more than a passage, it is an experience. A reminder that beauty is not found only in destinations, but in the journey itself. The tunnel invites pause, invites wonder, invites you to look upward and forward at once. And when you emerge at the other side, you leave not just a garden path behind, but a fleeting dream, one you can always return to whenever you step beneath those arches again. "18. Branch frame art wall with recycled glass bottles." Imagine a wall that doesn't simply divide space, but sings with light. Against its surface leans a frame of branches, rough, weathered, tied together with rope. Within it, bottles of every hue sway gently. Greens like deep forests, blues like open sky, ambers like fire caught in glass. When sunlight strikes, each bottle becomes a lantern, spilling colors across the soil and flowers. The garden transforms into a gallery, where every shift of light paints something new. At dusk, hidden fairy lights inside the bottles awaken, turning the frame into a constellation born of glass and wood. This wall is more than decoration. It is memory. Each bottle once held something ordinary, but now carries the extraordinary, the power to bend light, to enchant, to make an everyday garden corner feel sacred. The branches hold it all with quiet strength, painted here and there in pastel shades, like brushstrokes in a living painting. Standing before it, you don't just see bottles and wood. You see possibility, that waste can become wonder, that art can bloom where no gallery exists, that nature and human hands can share a canvas. "19. Rustic twig ladder shelf holding small pots. Imagine a ladder not meant to climb, but to display life. Against the garden wall, two strong twigs rise side by side, bound by rungs of branches, each rung a stage for growth. On them rest pots, some clay, some painted in soft pastels, overflowing with herbs, trailing ivy, and blossoms that spill downward like threads of color. The structure is rustic, imperfect, and yet that is its grace. Every knot in the wood, every uneven line, feels like a reminder that beauty does not demand perfection. Instead, it blooms from creativity, from giving new purpose to what was once discarded. As sunlight filters down, the plants cascade along the ladder's edge, weaving shadow and form into living art. It becomes not only storage, but story, each pot a chapter, each rung a page where nature writes in leaves and flowers. Standing before it, you feel the ladder's quiet invitation, to see vertical space not as empty, but as potential. It whispers of resourcefulness, of finding height and beauty where there was none before. And in its presence, the garden feels fuller, richer, more alive, proof that even a ladder of twigs can carry the weight of dreams. "20. Painted branch candle holders for evening garden glow. Imagine the garden as the sun begins to set, when colors soften and shadows grow long. Along the pathway, small forms emerge, sections of branches, hollowed and painted in hues of lavender, mint, and pale blue. Inside each rests a flame, steady yet alive, casting a golden glow against wood and earth. The air is filled with a quiet magic. Candlelight trembles across petals and leaves, turning ordinary blossoms into jewels of the evening. The painted edges catch the flicker, glowing softly as if branches themselves are alight with hidden fire. Each holder feels like a story in miniature, a reminder that warmth does not need grandeur, that light can be born from the humblest materials. The branches, once fallen, now give shelter to fire, guiding footsteps and framing conversations with their gentle radiance. To sit nearby is to enter a realm both intimate and vast, where silence deepens and the night becomes a canvas of light and shadow. These candle holders do more than illuminate. They create atmosphere, memory, and a sense of togetherness that lingers long after the flames are gone. "21. Branch planter cradles filled with succulents. Imagine small nests scattered across the garden floor, not for birds, but for plants. Twigs interwoven into circular cradles rest gently on the soil, their edges painted in cheerful pastels. Within each, succulents rise, jade with its glossy leaves, echeveria like living rosettes, string of pearls draping like jewels across the rim. The effect is both playful and serene. These cradles feel as though they grew here naturally, as if the earth itself offered them up as gifts. Moss lines their insides, softening the wood and holding soil, while sunlight glints across the fleshy leaves, highlighting greens, silvers, and touches of red. Succulents carry a quiet strength, enduring, adaptable, thriving with little care. Their presence in twig cradles becomes a meditation on resilience, how beauty endures even in unlikely vessels. Together, they turn forgotten branches into guardians of life, small homes that speak of resourcefulness and creativity. Placed in clusters or along a pathway, these cradles whisper charm into every corner. They remind us that gardens are not only for grandeur, but also for small wonders, the kind that surprise us, soften us, and linger in memory long after we leave. "22. Whimsical fairy lantern poles made of tall branches. Imagine a garden where every step forward is guided not by electric lamps, but by light born of branches and glass. Tall twigs rise from the soil like sentinels, their tips carrying jars that glow warmly in the dusk. Inside, fairy lights shimmer, their glow spilling across the path in soft circles, transforming a simple walkway into an enchanted passage. The branches themselves tell a story, painted in pastel tones, wrapped in ribbons, or left raw and weathered. Each pole feels like a marker on the edge of dream and reality, standing tall yet humble, recycled yet radiant. The jars sway slightly in the evening breeze, scattering sparks of light like stars that have descended to earth. This scene does more than illuminate. It creates mood, memory, and meaning. Couples walking side by side pause beneath their glow. Children chase shadows cast by the flickering jars. The garden itself seems to breathe, alive with color, warmth, and a sense of quiet wonder. When night deepens, the lanterns remain, a constellation rooted in earth rather than sky, reminding us that beauty does not only shine above, but can also rise from the simplest of branches at our feet. "23. Twig mushroom sculptures painted in vibrant colors. Imagine stepping into a corner of the garden where the ordinary rules of nature bend toward magic. Rising from the moss and ferns are mushrooms, but not the kind born of rain and soil. These are sculptures of twigs, their stems rough and rustic, crowned with caps painted in bold, joyful colors. Scarlet red with white dots like storybook toadstools. Cobalt blue shining like midnight skies. Sunshine yellow bright enough to rival the blooms nearby. Each cap glows beneath the daylight, alive with the shimmer of paint and the texture of hand-shaped wood. Around them, the garden leans closer. Ferns curl like guardians, moss spreads like velvet carpet, and wildflowers nod as if in greeting. It feels like an enchanted woodland, as though fairies might step out at any moment to sit beneath the painted shade. These twig mushrooms are more than sculptures. They are sparks of imagination planted in soil. They remind us that gardens are not bound by what grows naturally, but by what we dare to create. Standing among them, you feel wonder reawaken, proof that even the simplest branches can blossom into stories of color and delight. "24. Rustic dry branch trellis dome for backyard seating. Imagine walking into a garden and finding a small dome woven from branches, like a shelter shaped by nature itself. The arcs rise from the soil in a circular embrace, bending toward one another until they meet at the crown. Sunlight filters gently through the lattice, scattering golden patterns across the floor where a bench waits quietly. Here, the world feels hushed. The air is cooler beneath the trellis, softened by the shade of twigs and the promise of vines that will one day cover its frame in living green. Painted strokes of lavender, mint, and pale coral peek along the branches, adding whimsy without breaking rustic honesty. To sit within is to pause time. The dome becomes a room without walls, a sanctuary woven from what was once forgotten. Conversations linger longer here, stories flow easier, and silence itself feels full, carried by birdsong, rustling leaves, and the heartbeat of the garden around. It is not only a structure but a retreat, proof that beauty can rise from discarded wood, becoming a place where comfort and wonder meet beneath the sky. A secret hideaway, shaped by imagination and the quiet artistry of nature. '25. Branch waterfall fountain combined with stone base. Imagine the sound of water weaving through branches, soft and steady, like a lullaby whispered by the earth. Stones form the sturdy base, tiered and moss-kissed, while curved twigs guide the stream downward in graceful arcs. Each drop catches the light, scattering fragments of gold across leaves and petals nearby. The fountain feels alive, yet calm, a pulse in the heart of the garden. Birds gather to sip from its basin, butterflies hover in the mist, and the air hums with a serenity only moving water can bring. Painted pastel accents on the branches lend a whimsical touch, as though the fountain itself were part of a fairy's workshop, crafted for both beauty and peace. This is more than a feature, it is an invitation. To linger, to breathe, to listen, to feel that even the simplest elements, wood, stone, water, can combine into something extraordinary. It becomes a reminder of balance, strength in stone, grace in water, imagination in wood. And as dusk settles, the fountain glows beneath lantern light, its gentle trickle merging with night sounds, turning the garden into a sanctuary where time slows and wonder flows endlessly. '26. Twig-Crafted raised garden bed borders. Imagine a garden where every edge tells a story, not of stone or steel, but of branches once fallen and now reborn. Woven together, twigs rise into borders that cradle the soil like rustic baskets. Within them, life surges, tomatoes swelling on vines, marigolds bright against green, herbs perfuming the air with quiet abundance. The design is simple, but the feeling is profound. Each interlaced twig speaks of patience, of resourcefulness, of the old art of weaving nature back into itself. Sunlight strikes the pastel-painted accents, highlighting soft hues of mint, lavender, and pale yellow, making the borders shimmer like frames around living canvases. There is harmony here, between strength and fragility, between order and the wild. The twigs hold firm, yet allow plants to spill gracefully over, softening lines with color and motion. Standing before these beds, you sense balance, the earth contained, yet never constrained. These borders do more than shape soil, they shape experience. They invite you closer, to run your hand along textured bark, to smell the mingling of vegetables and flowers, to see how beauty and function intertwine. It is proof that even the humblest of branches can form foundations for life itself. "27. Whimsical branch birdhouses painted with fairy patterns." Imagine walking into the garden and finding a village in miniature. Birdhouses crafted from twigs, hanging gently from branches, each one painted as if touched by fairy hands. Soft pastels of lavender, mint, and sky blue glow under the sunlight, decorated with swirling stars, flowers, and playful patterns. They are more than ornaments. They are invitations to sparrows, finches, and chickadees to come and make a home. A small circular entrance opens to a safe haven, while moss, ribbons, and tiny stones accent each design, giving every house its own unique story. The air fills with song as feathered visitors arrive, their fluttering wings adding motion and life to the rustic charm. These birdhouses feel like bridges between worlds, human imagination and avian life, art and nature, whimsy and purpose. They remind us that beauty grows deeper when it serves not only the eye but also the creatures around us. To look at them is to see more than decoration. It is to glimpse a community forming in the branches, to hear voices of the wild joining the music of the garden. They transform simple twigs into homes of wonder, painted with love and alive with song. "28. Dry branch hanging planter mobile with colorful pots." Imagine looking up and seeing a dance above you, not of birds or clouds, but of pots swaying gently from branches. A sturdy limb stretches horizontally, and from it dangle twigs tied with rope, each carrying a vessel of life. Brightly painted pots swing like jewels in the breeze, spilling trails of ivy, herbs, and blossoms toward the ground. The mobile seems alive. As the wind stirs, it creates music without sound. Shadows shifting, leaves trembling, colors flickering across walls and pathways. Every pot tells its own story. Mint in a coral vessel, lavender in pale sky blue, golden marigolds glowing from sunshine yellow. Together, they form a gallery suspended in air, a living chandelier woven from what once was discarded wood. It is a piece of art that cannot be still, a reminder that gardens themselves are never static. They sway, grow, shift, and change with every hour. And in that motion lies their beauty. This whimsical mobile turns simple branches into a spectacle of balance and lightness. To sit beneath it is to feel wonder, as if the garden itself has lifted part of its soul skyward, to sway and shimmer in endless play. "29. Rustic branch sculpture centerpiece in a flower bed." Imagine a flower bed not just as a place of blooms, but as a stage for sculpture. Rising from the soil is a creation of branches, intertwined, spiraling, reaching toward the sky like a dance frozen in wood. Its curves are wild yet intentional, shaped not by tools but by the natural bends and twists of the twigs themselves. Around its base, flowers form a living frame. Marigolds burn in golden hues, roses climb with passion, daisies scatter their innocence in white. Together, they do not compete but elevate the sculpture, as if nature itself has chosen to spotlight this rustic art. Painted strokes of lavender, mint, and coral glow softly along the wood, adding whimsy to the rugged bark. At sunset, hidden fairy lights may catch within the spiral, making the branches gleam like constellations reborn in the garden. This is not merely decor. It is a conversation between earth and imagination. Proof that what once lay forgotten can rise into something extraordinary. A reminder that artistry is not confined to canvas or stone. It can be woven from twigs, planted among petals, and set to shine at the heart of a garden's story. Fairy twig pergola over a small seating nook. Imagine stepping into a hidden corner of the garden and finding a pergola woven from twigs, arched like an invitation to rest. The branches curve overhead, bound together in rustic patterns, softened by blossoms that spill downward in cascades of color. Roses climb with grace, morning glories unfurl like ribbons, and pastel-painted touches glimmer along the wood, turning the structure into a fairy's gateway. Beneath this canopy, a small bench waits with cushions, as if promising quiet conversations, shared tea, or solitary moments with a book. Sunlight filters gently through the lattice, scattering dappled shadows that move with every breeze. It feels private, yet open, an outdoor room where nature is both wall and roof. Here, time loosens its grip. The world outside seems far away, while inside this nook, everything slows to the rhythm of wind and birdsong. The pergola is not only a structure, it is a sanctuary born from what was once discarded. A reminder that beauty grows not from perfection, but from imagination. And as evening settles, lanterns glow softly under the arches, and the little nook becomes a retreat of enchantment. Proof that even twigs can become the frame of a dream. And that's our journey through 25+ dry branch upcycle ideas. Proof that the simplest materials can create the most magical gardens. Which idea inspired you most? Share your thoughts or ask your questions in the comments. I truly enjoy reading every one. If this video sparked your imagination, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to Archon Aesthetic Studio. Every click, every comment, every share, it keeps this little dream alive, and helps more people discover the joy of turning ordinary into extraordinary.